So this is my video explaining my personal project for the second semester in grade 11. So I've decided to make a mod for Minecraft and using the latest version that can be modded easily using the tool Forge. Forge is the tool that I'm using, and it's a pretty handy tool. You just go on the internet and you can download it. So Forge, like so. Just go to Minecraft Forge, and you've got all the versions here. You can download the versions for like either modding, so MDK is what I was using for this project, modding development kit. You can also just use sources, universal launcher, installer. All these are just for like, I think most of them are just for like whether you're gonna make like a mod pack or like just run mods. But this one is for when you're actually making a mod. So yeah, you can get a bunch of different versions. This is the latest version that I have, 1.13.2. Although Minecraft does have 1.14 out now, so they are a little bit behind. But that's fine. 1.13 is still a new version for modding at least. So back to this, which is my project. Opened up in Eclipse, which is a nice Java IDE, and this is my project folder. So I decided to make this project because using code like here, this is the kind of code that I was writing for this project. Writing code is, I like doing it, and it's also something that will help me in the future as I'm planning to go and do a field that's in the area of like either software development, game development, or like some sort of area in the computer science field. So anything writing code will help me just because of the act of writing code and problem solving, all that kind of stuff. On that note, I did get most of this information and learned a lot of this from this tutorial, which is from this YouTube channel right here. So he has some great YouTube videos about programming, mostly Minecraft here. So he's got this series, which is the one that I used to learn a lot of the fundamentals of the 1.13 modding. He has older versions as well, so very helpful there. That's the source that I used to learn a lot of it. But he also has a Discord server, which is where a lot of people from that community and like talk. And what's nice is they have areas where you can ask questions and where you can get feedback. So that's a very useful tool for if you get stuck, you can ask questions there because there are a lot of knowledgeable people that can help you. So that's one area where I'm really grateful of having that resource. So yeah, that's the other thing that was very useful for this project. Now that being said, this was a very difficult project because it was the newest version. There's not a whole lot of information or tutorials out there to learn about it. So I did have to ask a lot of questions and do a lot of kind of, discovering. So you go and look at what the generic furnace block is, and it's like, okay, that's what the code they use. So you copy and paste it, kind of look through it, kind of decide what it does, because most code, if it's written well, you can look at it, you can kind of understand what it's doing. Unfortunately, there's a lot of changes and little changes, so 1.12 tutorials, 1.12.2 version tutorials don't work perfectly. So a lot of me trying to use the older version tutorials and trying to update them, that was a very buggy and having to fix a lot of problems. So that was a great time. Well, not great, but it was a lot of problems and I had to ask a lot of questions, and I probably learned a lot in the process, especially about Java itself, because you're working with the language, so you're probably going to learn stuff along the way. So enough of me talking about this for now. Let's have a look at the mod. So I'm just going to hit this run client here. All right, so it finally opened up, and as you can see here, it says Forge beta. Major issues may arise. So this is a beta version. I think there are newer versions, so I could update, but as of last time I used it, that was the latest version that I used. So if you look into here, we have Mambo's Mattercraft, which is the name that I chose, Mattercraft. I'll get into the reason why I chose that name later, but that's the name of the mod. We have Forge, Minecraft, obviously, Forge, and then my mod. So, yeah. This is obviously regular Minecraft. Let's full screen it. So, it has all the regular features, but when we log into this world that I have for testing, it will basically have everything that Minecraft 1.13.2 has, and what I have. So, these are the blocks that I've added right here. So, I have 4 blocks, and I have 1 item. Alright, so the first thing I want to show you guys is that there is a creative tab that I've added, Mattercraft, with the item here, and it has matter, which is the item, matter block, matter battery, matter fabricator, and matter recycler. Now, these textures right here, I actually got from a copper block because I hadn't actually gotten around to making custom textures. I did with this matter right here, so that's why that one looks a little bit different. So it has a bit more, so that's what that was. But these are just simple placeholders. So that's why I just put BF and R on them, just to denote what they were. So that's why that they're not like, they don't actually look like what they should be. So let me just explain about the mod. So the mod basically works on the idea that you can take any block or item in the game and you can turn it into matter, and then you can take that matter and you can then turn it back into item. And the idea was that each item has a matter value and it's equal to that matter. So you can take yourself, let's say, I'm just going to do your inventory to make it simple. Let's say that a piece of redstone and a piece of diamond. Okay, let's grab diamond. All right, let's say that 64 redstone is equal to a diamond, right? So you put 64 redstone into the matter, the recycler. That's what I've called it, the recycler. So it's going to recycle it into whatever the matter is. It's arbitrary of what the value actually is. And let's say that that equals to what a diamond is. Then you could put the diamond into the matter fabricator, and then you could, it would maybe over time slowly turn that matter into a diamond. So that's the idea. Now this is based off this comes like the inspiration of this mod, or of the simple idea of turning one thing into another, comes from the mod Project E. And in credits, as you can see here, I've thanked Project E. Thanks to Project E for inspiring this mod. It used to go by the name Equivalent Exchange, but a very old mod, unique idea, and just I was going to put a spin on it. But I'll get into a reason why I haven't done any more on this mod in a little bit, but let's have a look at the other things. Authors, Mambo, that's just my online name that I'm going by. No child mods found. This mod is about matter. That's the description. Version 1.0, and mod ID is Mattercraft state done. Not sure what that means, whatever. It's the first version, and yeah, so let's go back in the world and let's talk about how the other parts that this is obviously the basics. So right now I think you can right click on just the furnace. Yeah, this is the what is it? Fabricator. No, recycler. So I just added functionality so you can actually right click on the furnace. Now this is just the furnace code, so it doesn't actually doesn't actually smelt because it doesn't have any recipes, but it does work. And kind of, a little bit. Now, I've been trying to manipulate it, but since there's no tutorials for the 1.13 version, I was trying to figure it out on my own, but it was being very hard. So this is the state that I was at. I would have added functionality to the other two, and obviously I'm going to change this to be something else. But for now, that's what I had gotten to. So let's just explain what these do. So matter block is kind of just a test block. Same with the matter. Though they'd probably not even be in the basic mod at the end, maybe. But anyway, the point is, you have your matter battery, which stores matter. So it has a certain amount of matter storage. Now, once you place down a block in, I guess, the machinery of this mod, it becomes a system. I haven't implemented this. This is just my plan for the future of the mod. So it would become a system. So now this is a system, a one block system that has a storage, and that's it. Now, if I add a recycler, right? Now, if they're touching, if they were like this, they may or may not connect. I'm thinking not. They wouldn't connect, but they could. I haven't decided like whether I would have made that connectable. Let's just assume for now that this is still a system. So now this is one system. So we have a recycler that turns matter into, or sorry, blocks into matter. And then you have the battery, which is storing it, and then you have the fabricator, which is turning it back into items. Now, note that these all would have storage values of matter. The recycler and the fabricator would be less than the battery, obviously, because the battery, that's the main purpose. Now, the idea is that you don't just right click and you're like, okay, so this has 32 matter or whatever, right? The idea is you right click and it's like, okay, so the max amount of energy in this system is 100%. When it's 100%, everything is full. This has 100% capacity. Everything has 100% capacity. So that would maybe be shown by a value that says 100%, right? So that would be like, so if you look and you're like, okay, so it's at 64%, meaning that everything's filled at 64%, or not everything's filled at 64%. If you add up all of the storing amounts and then that's 64%. So if you add another recycler, it's going to basically bump down the percentage because it's going to leave more room. So there's no like transportation like you have a thing. And I think the reason why I might have added this is just a way to connect, like let's say you have your batteries over here. You have this nice block of batteries storing. It's going to store all your matter, right? And you're like, okay, I want this to connect to my recycling bank where I recycle all my items. So you have your let's say you have your 6 recyclers. Like let's say like that. 6 recyclers, and you have your, over here you have your fabricators. So you have your fabricators and your recyclers, and you're like, okay, so I want this to be a system now. So you're like, okay, let's connect them with these matter blocks. So now it's now one system. It's now all connected and it's all one system, and you right click to get your value over here, and it's like, okay, so it's really low. It's only like 1% out of 100 because you've only added like a few items. So that's the idea, that you have a system and whatever you put into it is in it. And then if you just connect a new thing, and by the way, these matter blocks probably wouldn't have any value. They would just be connection only. It's like, okay, so I have a new battery over here. It's like, whatever. So now it's part of it. That's the idea, and the whole idea is just be able to recycle blocks. Like, instead of having to throw out cobblestone that you don't need or whatever, you can just recycle it. And maybe it'll take a lot of cobblestone to get a diamond, but it's still better than just throwing it out, because I mean, who wants to throw out like random stuff that you don't need? Yeah, so that's that's kind of the idea for the mod. Obviously, I'd probably add more in the future, but that's the basic idea of it. And okay, this is kind of being, yeah, let's just fix that. There we are. Now, so this is the basic idea of the mod, and it has some environmental aspects to it. Obviously, there's no built-in way of like having, since that machinery they'd make whatever. It's just a video game, but still you can have concepts of real life practicality in video games. It's still something that you can do. So that's pretty cool that you would be able to do that with this mod. And I like the idea of having a system, instead of being like, oh, let's say this is the cable. It's like, okay, so you have your matter battery and your matter recycler. It's like, okay, so it's going to take some time for the matter to get over there. I didn't want it to be like that. I just wanted it to be one system. There's no transformation because it's matter, right? It's like you can use it. It's like there. Anyway, so that's the idea, at least. And again, this is just a rough prototype for the example. So that's probably enough for showing off in the mod. Let's quit the game. Now, you may notice that it uses this console and this run client not bad. I could have possibly run it in there, but I think that it just works better by running this. Anyway, let's get rid of this because we don't need it. It's just the project panel. Full screen, this is the code. So the code here is quite a bit. So the idea is that you have your mod. It gets like initialized, a bunch of other stuff, but the basic idea is that you initialize blocks that are being added to a database of already existing blocks or items. So you have your main class, which is basically initializing them, so adding them to the mod. And then you have, let's say this, which is an item fuel. This is an item fuel class, which is specifically for items that do fuel. I think, oh yeah, I forgot to mention that the matter can actually be used as a fuel in a furnace, so that's adding functionality to it. Yeah, so that's what that, so that whenever you want to make item fuel, just use that. So when you have these block class, right, you add this block to the database, and it's like, okay, so this is a block. It's a block recycler because that's the one with actual functionality. So that's actually a class now. It's not just using a base class. And since that's a adaptation of the base class, you need yourself a actual, like, you need yourself a block, like a class that's extending what you would have extended. So this is a block container, which is probably going to extend block anyway. So it's just abstracting from the block itself. So this is all the stuff that I copied over from what a furnace is, and I was trying to make it work using this talent entity recycler. Yeah, so it was getting there, but it wasn't really working. But those two classes are kind of working together to make that GUI open up work when you right click on it. Item blocks for the item when you're holding it in your inventory. Items, there's just the same thing but for items, so it's just for adding items to the database of items that's already in. Now, I did refactor it a bit. This is not how the tutorial showed it, so I kind of changed it to what I thought would look or work better. Oops. Alright, so this is the main class, which we already went over. This is the Minecraft item group, which is basically that tab in the creative inventory that I showed you. So that's just a simple thing that I learned from the tutorial. Now, those are all the classes. So not a whole lot going on there, but the big thing is resources. So these are all JSON files that I had to basically add, which are basically allowing all of the textures being rendered and all of the models and all that kind of stuff. So there's a bunch of them, including a file for like what the block actually reads, like what its name is in the game. So yeah, lots of simple, not simple, but lots of stuff, including the textures here, which as you can see, I could just change that, and then it would now become a different texture. So lots of resources here, and this is just one project. I have another project of an old mod, just loaded up. So yeah. Now, the act of me programming this is just one way. This is one field. You could get a job similar to this, programming. Like, let's say I worked at Minecraft, like for Mojang. Let's say I worked for Mojang. This is one job that I'd have to be doing whatever part of programming. So this is one kind of experience that I can try to see if I'm interested in doing this as a career. Although it might not be a plausible career, it's still a career. Yeah, so it's option, and I might have been interested in this, and I might still be interested. It's just what the information and that kind of stuff wasn't right. So maybe I wouldn't be interested in this. Maybe if I was working with a team of people and I knew a bit more about this topic and stuff like that, maybe I'd be interested. So yeah, it's definitely an option, but yeah, it's definitely a good learning experience for programming, even if I'm not going to be using this exact programming for a job. It's still good practice for programming. So any programming project will be good. Now, the act of just having to fix so many bugs, it's so helpful because you're just learning so much. You're like, okay, I didn't even know that. Now I know that. So that is just so much learning. It makes lots of learning experience. And also just having to figure out from something that's already there. Like if you came into a job and somebody made something and you have to figure out what that means and then you have to change it. So that's definitely an important aspect. Now, one reason why I stopped this project and didn't create more was because, and I don't want to say that it was too hard, but there was a lot of problems that I had to fix, and a lot of the problems were hard, and I had to ask for help. Now I don't mind doing that. It's just sometimes it's very time consuming, and I'd rather spend something that's more like constructive. And now this was very good for problem solving, but again, problem solving can get very boring. Although it depends on what you're doing, right? Because maybe I'm not super interested in doing this anymore, but it doesn't necessarily mean I won't be interested in the future. Just saying, at the moment, it wasn't holding my interest for a long period of time, maybe because there wasn't like a whole lot of tutorials. Like there isn't very many tutorials for 1.13, so maybe it just isn't a super big thing. Now, other thing I have to say, there's a game coming out, which is called Hytale. And this game is basically, let's just go to the home page. It's basically just it's similar to Minecraft, as you can see. Looks similar, but it looks much more polished and worked on. This is a beta game. It's not like out yet, but it's an alpha, I guess, whatever. But it's not out yet. It's just it's still being worked on, and they're releasing features to the blog to tell us about it. Now, what the big thing though is that it has tools. You can mod this game, and it is meant for modding. So unlike Minecraft, they were like, okay, it is moddable. Like we will say, okay, we let out the source code. But this mod, they're like, we embrace that modding will happen to this game, and we want to make it easy and fun. And yeah, so it's not like Minecraft ever really had like a modding API or like a whole lot of support for it. It was all kind of based on people that made modding tools. So this is awesome, and this is definitely a game that I would get when it comes out, and definitely try out the modding. And it might be awesome because it's the game itself. The people who made the game are like, we know that it's going to be modded, and we want to embrace that. So that's another reason I don't really want to start a giant project and then just have to push it aside for something like this, which isn't a bad thing because you're still learning. So I could do that, but I want to work on other things right now. So after all that, I'm glad I started this project. I'm glad I did everything, but the project went to a close, and I was like, okay, I didn't make a whole lot to show, but it's fine because I can talk about it. There's lots of stuff that I can talk about, and I have. And I've talked about how it connects to a career in the future and how just having the experience of programming is good for a future programming job. Kind of makes sense. Anyway, so yeah, this is my personal project, and yeah,